Following the fall of Kabul to the Taliban, which was a force led discreetly until then by the Pakistani military establishment, the role and the hand of the Pakistan military in events in Afghanistan became very prominent when the DG-ISI of the Pakistan Army, Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, apparently chose on his own accord to go there and ensure that a government that is established in Kabul is of the liking of the ISI in particular and the Pakistan military in general, and ensured, therefore, that of the 33-member cabinet that would be sworn in, there would be people who would clearly do Pakistan's work there. And those that had chosen to engage with India or speak out to publicly, like the Taliban leader Staniskai, or even Mullah Baradar, who had differences with the Haqqani group, were downgraded from what was expected that should have been their cabinet posts. But the physical presence of General Hamid left no doubt in the mind of observers that the show had been orchestrated and was running by the Pakistan Army. Why? Because the Pakistan Army has fathered the Taliban. And they began doing that during the last stages of the Soviet presence in Afghanistan in the 80s. But it really came into prominent position in the 90s. A bit of history. The Taliban came in as the Pakistan Army's chosen alternative to a collection of tribal and so-called terrorist groups that were used by the Pakistan Army at the encouragement of the United States to launch a massive proxy war in Afghanistan against the Soviets. And this force became known as the Mujahideen. It had a collection of tribal warlords and terror groups, from the Hekmatyars to the Haqqanis. But in the late 80s, the idea began to firm up in the Pakistani military establishment that they needed a group that they could claim had territorial ethnic connectivity to Afghanistan. And hence the Taliban, essentially students from madrasas, and that's what the Taliban means. And the Taliban was thereafter under the control of General Hamid Gul, the DG-ISI. And traditionally, the ISI Director Generals see this as an extended arm of Pakistan's military geostrategic agenda. So, when General Faiz Hamid landed up in Kabul, it upset a lot of senior officers and politicians in Pakistan. Because Pakistan's hand became visible in the geopolitics of Afghanistan post 15th August or 31st August, whichever date you take. More importantly, Faiz Hamid had gone without the approval of the army's top brass, though he is a senior officer himself. But there is a hierarchy in the Pakistan Army which has to be respected. And it is the hierarchical respect that has traditionally led the most unexpected people to lead coups in Pakistan. And all other generals back him, whether it was Ziaul Haq against Bhutto or it was Musharraf against Nawaz Sharif. But while the military in Pakistan has chosen in years thereafter to keep one step behind the politicians in the public domain, they clearly are the people who run the game in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So when Faiz Hamid was summoned back into Rawalpindi, he went through a bit of tension and tight moments because his car that drove him into GHQ Rawalpindi was stripped off the ISI flag at the gates of Pakistan's military headquarters. He was marched up to the Adjutant General, who is the man in all armies that keeps disciplines, and summoned and given a notice that he either formally apologizes for his adventurism into Afghanistan in the public domain, or he would be sacked. Faiz Hamid apologized and somehow retained his job. But simultaneously, another set of events was unfolding. Pakistan's botched military operation against the Lions of Panjshir, led by Ahmad Shah Massoud's son Ahmad Massoud, was making headlines of another order. Pakistan's Special Service Group commandos were dying more than they had expected. Some 5 odd officers died apparently. Another 7 to 10 JCOs were dead, many more wounded. And the entire operation, being led by General Rahmani, was not making the kind of breakthroughs that Pakistan wanted the world to see. It was an embarrassment that Pakistan's army was simultaneously coming to terms with. A lot of midnight funerals were done by the Pakistan army in and around Peshawar, and many dead were left to be eaten up by vultures on the hilltops of Panjshir Valley. But what it showed was, while the Pakistan army was clear in its agenda of domination of Afghanistan, it wasn't able to achieve the kind of results that it had been boasting about, particularly as the Americans withdrew. So the Pakistanis didn't have to get the Taliban to fight them. Taliban just occupied vacant spaces. But there were other developments that took place also in the Pakistani hierarchy. The Chief of General Staff, who's the number 2 man after the Pakistan Army Chief, was a gentleman called Lieutenant General Mirza, and he looked after the intelligence agencies and the land operations, was held responsible for the botch-ups in Afghanistan, and was demoted of sorts and made the corps commander in Rawalpindi, though he continued to have his Lieutenant General's rank. But from CGS to become a corps commander is clearly one step down. And the other thing was that there was a General Azhar Abbas who was picked up and made the CGS. Now, Azhar Abbas is a Shia officer, and as we know, Pakistan is a Sunni-dominant country. So why a Shia officer? Because messaging had to be sent out that Pakistan Army is preparing for engagement, not just with the Shia groups within Pakistan, where there have been constant strife and conflict between the Pakistan Army and the Shia militias, but with Iran. It's a country that Pakistan needs to have on board. And all this links up to a doctrine that was spelt out by General Mirza Aslam Beg in 1990, when after General Zia died, the Pakistan Army was looking for what to do. कि हमने जश्म काबुल तो बना लिया, अब हम कहाँ चले? So he spelt out the idea of Pakistan creating a forward strategic depth in Afghanistan, not just a strategic depth, but a forward strategic depth, which would be for Pakistan looking towards Afghanistan and beyond, and not creating a safe haven in its backyard for a possible Indian intervention via Afghanistan into Pakistan's back. And therefore, the Pakistanis have been obsessed in controlling territory from the Indus to the Oxus and beyond. This puts Pakistan in possible confrontation with the Russians, who see the entire Central Asian terrain as their turf. They control the militaries, they control their arming, training, and their equipment. And therefore, Russia would not be only happy, but fairly comfortable if Pakistan restricted itself to its traditional focus of territorial defense against India and some element of involvement in Afghanistan. But the most noticeable fact that is now emerging is Pakistan's clear linkages with the Taliban and terror groups, because Taliban has clearly offered homes to all sorts of terror groups in Afghanistan, and their linkages with Al-Qaeda are well known and established. But certain other proxies are taking root out there, such as ISIS Khorasan. Could be Pakistan creating another group with another name, because the ISIS Khorasan was more an idea than an effective group. And therefore, the linkages between ISIS Khorasan and Pakistan's military in the Kabul bomb blasts, which took place just a day before or 2 days before America had agreed to withdraw, was something that became very visible now to intelligence operatives. And the fact that Pakistan is going to shift the homes of its terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jamaat-e Dawa, or the Jaish-e-Mohammed and others into Afghanistan, which doesn't come under right now any kind of global scrutiny because China is paying the bills there, but more in the long run would give Pakistan, Afghanistan combined to create forces to target its adversaries, not necessarily India and Kashmir, which people have been warning about, because there the Indian army is very well equipped and poised today to give any adventurism by the Pakistan army on the LOC a big hole through their heads. But other parts of India would remain vulnerable, especially the coastal cities, for another 2611 type attack, which could be trained, armed and created in Afghanistan and routed via Pakistan into India, because they have to take a land route. They can't possibly fly them from Afghanistan onto the coastal cities of India. And most importantly, the Pakistan army's resources now would be so stretched that they either dominate Afghanistan, the long cherished ambition of Pakistan, or they take on the job of keeping trouble alive for India on the LOC. Chances are they'll focus more on Afghanistan, because Afghanistan has been their coming out party after 50 years of humiliation for having surrendered in Dhaka. And therefore, it is a moment Pakistan is savoring. But many Pakistanis who are gloating about their success in Afghanistan do not understand that Afghanistan as a land does not have that much to offer. And it is certainly going to be a quicksand where empires have sunk in, and the Pakistan army is no exception. It might just get caught up in the quagmire from which it may not exit that easily ever.